This is going to be the story on how you'll be able to identify not the the um, the story about Miguel having surgery, who raped Frankie. And I can't even recall to this day whether uh, I was molested or gave oral sex as well. I don't think I did, but I knew that I did see it, saw it, and I got conditioned. I was young. I wasn't even 5 years old. I was 4 years old when that happened. Because I was still like in kindergarten when that happened. Yeah, I was still like in kindergarten when that happened. And I say this because this is how you're going to be able to identify how the cover-up of a lie was. I talked about that Diana, in two separate occasions, poisoned me and poisoned my mother. And she actually brought over a big bowl of soup. And I got terribly sick, but I ate some food at her house in soup one day with Mickey and Frankie. And I told Mickey may be able to remember this. I told Mickey when I got really sick one day when eating, I asked Mickey, and I was scared to tell him something, but he was so serious and I got so sick so bad that I felt like I needed to say something, but I was scared because remember, the Christians, they're good people, because Mickey was a straight A student. He was a really good kid. His parents were the total opposite of what had happened, the horrors, and how well they covered that up. But what happened is I talked about that I felt like I had a stroke. And Mickey told me, and I was told Mickey that I said, I feel like I had a stroke. I said, you're too young. What are you talking about? You're fucking 10 years old. You know, you ain't had no stroke. And he said that, and I remember he was dribbling a basketball. You may be able to ask him, and he may be able to remember saying, yeah, I think I remember him saying. And I was asleep, and I got so sick, it felt like I had a stroke, and I said one part of my brain started hurting, and I felt like I had a spasm or some shit that had happened to me. And I remember I had bronchitis, and I got so sick beyond anything you can imagine. I thought I was gonna fucking die. I mean, I've never been this sick where, like, usually a flu builds itself up. No, it was like I eat poison, and then like within the next day, I'm fucking sick. So I wanted to make sure that that is being cleared. Now, I already talked about this and drew the drawings, but I wanted to make this clear because that did happen, right? Now, fast forward to maybe a year or two after. One day, I don't. This is what my mom told me. My mom told me that Diana said that Miguel had to go to the emergency room because he used to eat a lot of chilies and a lot of jalapenos, and he swallowed the seeds, and it collected in his kidneys, and it bursted his kidneys, or not kidneys, his spleen or something like that. And he had to have surgery, and it bursted, and he had to go to the emergency because your body can't digest jalapeno seeds and some of the pepper seeds. So please look into this. I don't know who it is, and my mother told me this. If he did not have surgery and it was a lie, bingo, they were trying to figure out how the next step was and what poison, because they didn't want to get caught. So if you say somebody else got hurt, you feel empathy for that person, when really they're the ones that did it and lied. So you be able to go into the hospital medical records and find out whether he actually did have surgery and have that or not. That's going to be up to the professionals. And there was something else very disturbing about this situation. Okay, this is probably one of the most disturbing, detailed of situations, videos that I've made about my sister, Miguel, and my mother sort of combined. And I don't know what the situation is with this. And one day when I was playing with Ivan, this is probably toward the last year that I probably was hanging out with him on the front porch, just hanging out. And Miguel and Diana walked by in front of Ivan's house while we were playing, and Miguel looked over at Ivan like a fierce look, and they were walking their dog normally, and he looked over at Ivan and he goes like this. He goes, And he did that. Like, he looked at his crotch, and then he looked straight. Now, I don't know how many times, I don't know what could have happened that could have triggered this. I believe that Miguel somehow did convert his life over to try to be protective. With the psychologist, I don't know what it was to then take the blame. I don't know if it was to take the blame, but I believe he was trying to clean himself up. And the way that he was is that you add some enforcement to what was going on in that situation in case he does something to Julian or me or someone else. Because then it keeps him in line. And I think he wanted to participate this parent type of spewing to him. And he did this several times, and he would act very firm. He didn't look at me. He looked at him. Now, I remember Ivan, whenever he looked, he stood like closed in on him and just looking at him like something was serious. You know, like when there's something serious that happens and everything's real calm and you're trying to figure out, what, that's exactly what happened. Now, the reason I think it's important to think of this is because I used to work for J.C. Penney. And I remember this guy. He used to behave exactly like George Bush. And he was a big Christian. He came over to me once, and he was one of those hardcore Christians that would fool you to make you think certain things and then like trick you or something. And it was like, I knew that kind of character, but he was fine. He was a nice guy, but he was a nice guy. And I remember him kind of going to me, and he brought up a conversation. He was really old. He was about 65 years old, but he was a 65-year-old that was extremely healthy. It looked like he had never smoked and drank his whole life, and was like a Christian boy, but was firm with himself. And he said something in the conversation that would have caused him, and he goes over to me and he goes, yeah. And he goes like this, and when he did it, it looked like a pedophilia. It looked like a pedophile playing with your testicles, like the way that he did it. And that's exactly what I got from him when he did it. And the way that he was standing if he was Ivan's next door neighbor. So the reason I say is so disturbing about this, because one day, if Ivan ever touched Julian in an inappropriate way for a moment, they all knew about this. And I can't even explain that, if that even happened. I don't know if that could have been. But one of the reasons I think of this also is because about 4 months ago, it was about 3 months ago when I was out in St. Clair, I looked like what I saw Julian over at the Julian shelter, but I couldn't tell because I was behind behind the steel cages outside, and there was like 2 or 3 rows of steel cages before I could actually look through from a distance about 15 yards away from me, and I could only see him through a crack from the side, and I saw him get something with his hand and go like this, and then throw it in the trash. I saw him do that, and I looked over and I said, "They look like Julian." So, God forbid that happened. Now, I know Ivan's mother knew. I knew something about that Miguel raping Frankie. I knew because I had seen her get out, and she looked sort of upset and pissed off at him, like serious. But it was like after a couple walks he did in front of the house, then it was like unity. It's just one of the gays. We made a mistake. We unite like that together, and that's how the behavior was because I was standing there. And so I think it's important for me to say this to whoever the psychologists that are going to relieve anything, that he was getting involved in this. Ivan and Diana were walking in front of the house, and they were getting involved with Ivan. So I want to, maybe they didn't know. Maybe they were just doing it to him to keep him in line because they wanted to parent the situation, like they wanted to parent over my mother to saying who she had sex with, who she got raped by, what her decisions are, and who the good person is. Because remember when I talked about my mother got slapped by Diana and I didn't know that had happened, and she walked through the door? Well, she wouldn't say anything of what had happened. I didn't understand because they're always laughing and talking together, and this was not the case. So I wanted to make this video, and hopefully that whoever the psychologists and professionals are can do whatever it is with this information that they want to help my mother, and whatever which way, or Frankie, or the situations, because there was a subject. I'm in the topic of this right now because one of the reasons is because I went to Home Depot like 5 days ago, and when I went there was a guy that just approached me out of nowhere. He goes, "Do you know where a tub is?" And he looked at me like he was persecuting me, like he was already like, "It's your fault." And he was a Mexican chubby guy trying to represent, Richard again. The guy from the GED Center, right? This is the homosexual thing. So, the gay community, how they persecute me. But I kind of didn't think of it, and I thought over maybe a couple of days, or, over recent, I thought, when I was in the hospital, Sarah Cooper was there in the doctor's office, in which I would have never had them there if I knew what was going on. Never. If I had... You don't understand how I'm being conditioned and told because of my mother. I know my mother, my family, better than they do, and they just squandered it. But Sarah Cooper said, and she's always persecuting. This is what she's always doing. And then sabotaging everything. That's all that fucking piece of shit is doing. Wants to take away anything left of my mother because it's her play fucking toy like a dumbass, right? Playing my mother stupid because it's Ken that's allowing it and doing it. And Sarah Cooper said that she knew somebody while she was a nurse or counseling, someone that had committed suicide, and it was some guy or some girl. I think he would say it was a guy. Yeah, saying it was a guy, and this is the way that she said. She goes, "Yeah, he was a guy," and is doing this, like looking, just fishing out information. This person is not connected. This person is not in the background helping. This is just because this person is drama is an enjoyment. You have no idea. I know they're going to cover it up. This is why I'm getting tired, and I'm going to have to surrender to the shit. So, she said somebody had committed suicide in a tub and slit their wrist and bled out to death. This is exactly what Sarah Cooper said. Now, she pointed over to like a neighbor that did this. Like she was pointing when she was talking to me. And she goes, "Yeah." And I was looking at her because it was weird when I'm like, I don't know, what she did. Like this person was in their own cooped up head. And I don't know, like I'm not following them, but I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I don't say that, and I'm not pissed. I'm like, I just don't know what you're talking about. I don't, like... So what happens is if it turns out that Ivan's mother committed suicide after she left that house, and it was her, they found out that they committed suicide, it's going to be 10 times worse on the immediate families, and my mom and all this family that I don't even know anymore. But I don't think that's the case, because when I was in Barrie, Vermont, I saw what looked like to be Ivan's mother. It was her. Like it was her exactly, almost, but aged drastically. But they're sending so many people that looked exactly like that person to then antagonize the situation, to either, I don't know what the purpose of who the psychologist and who's doing this, but they're the ones that are doing this. And the person just shows up for a day or two. They pop out of their door just to look at me for a moment and then walk, and then go back and quickly shut the door. And I don't know really what to think. And I'm like, damn, that looked exactly like Ivan's mom. Like, wish she would have looked like she was much more older. But I wanted to make a video on that. So what the situation is with this particular type of situation, because I think it's important. Psychologists could probably use this information, very resourceful, and I'm tired. I don't want to be. I want to kind of, I have to let this go. Sarah and Ken are in charge of this, and whoever's doing this to my mother, I don't have any contact, but I'm doing a desperation because I remember the mother that I had, and I remember the brother and immediate family that I had, and they did collect. Barack Obama shitted in my mother's mouth. He raped me. Gonna make an excuse. They're gonna keep layering it. He's using the American people to scold me and readjust anything to get away with the one. Where he keeps Ken Cooper, the hero, an award winner, police department detective, all covered up in lies, because that's all they're doing is to break me, destroy me, mentally, vocally, in every antagonizing way, in work environments, where I'm walking, where I'm going to a casino, grocery store, it's constantly non-stop. Because if they're doing this to me, they're doing this to my mother, and they were doing this to my mother, and that's what happened. Because when she can't talk anymore, and she's not that, they can just do this, do this, do this. Oh, I don't care. Because they don't care about human life. They don't care about my mother's life. I'm the number one son. I'm the one that was there in all this situation, that was going to be the inheritor of the money, saw the witness and all these things. I'm having every celebrity of every walk of money of existence. This could have been more of a gold mine. The fact they're twins now are, because I don't know who their twins are. They weren't there. My mother can't think. That's all their winnings. I can't do anything about this. I just, I'm not in charge. I'm not in charge.